I'm going to call this meeting of the Lebanon County Election Board to order. The first item on our agenda is public comment. Before we do that, I just want to make a couple of statements and provide some information that some of you may not be aware of. Is anybody still out here? I'm going to stand over here so these folks can hear. Is that we made a decision last month to remove the drop box. We had a 2-to-1 vote, as you all know. I've spent, I don't know how many hours talking to people, reading emails, probably from some of you. We had comments at that meeting. We've gotten more comments, and I think I understand most of the issues. And even before we made the decision, I was starting to look at the prospect of the Dropbox as, again, they're two sides. Let me take just a few minutes, if you will indulge me, to read a couple of comments that I pasted and copied and pasted into a document. These are from constituents who are not in favor of our decision to remove the Dropbox. These are direct quotes from their notes. As a dedicated voter with health concerns and with responsibilities for an ill family member, I am grateful to be able to use a mail ballot. However, I do not believe I can rely on the present postal service to deliver my ballot securely and in a timely manner. Recently, it took 12 days to mail to a friend in Lebanon County. I do not want to risk my vote in this way. The Dropbox makes it possible for me to be certain my vote has been received and without risk to my health by standing indoors in line to deliver my ballot. Very valid points. This is from another email. Voting is a constitutional right, and many of us also consider it to be both a responsibility and duty. As such, access to and ease of voting should be primary considerations of our elected officials. We should be supported and encouraged to vote, not discouraged or have barriers placed in our ways. Other valid points. A third, different email. I'm writing regarding the vote last month to remove the ballot drop box outside the county courthouse. I understand that this decision will be discussed at tomorrow's meeting. I will support having an option for dropping off mail ballots at the courthouse in a way that is safe, secure, and accessible. In short, I am asking you to reinstate the drop box, or else use this opportunity to design an even better option for Lebanon County voters to return their ballots to the courthouse. That's my favorite, because this person is saying, or even a better option. We've come up with something. So you're going to be entitled to make public comment, but I would suggest, if you don't mind, as we get into our agenda, Mr. Drasher, Director of Elections, we've been working and talking for the last several weeks about just that, an option that would be even more secure than the Dropbox, but not sacrificing convenience. As a matter of fact, the proposal that I think Sean's going to lay out in detail is going to make it even more convenient. So, again, you'll be entitled to make any comment you want, but I would suggest, is it a fair statement to say most people are here to comment about keeping the Dropbox? Raise your hand. So, if you wouldn't mind, we'll allow Sean to make that presentation so that you can hear what that proposal is. And I think it's a reasonable compromise. I hope you do too. Sound fair?
We do have public comment on the agenda first.
I think he's saying that this may resolve a lot of it.
We'll take public comment, but I want to allow Sean to present that concept, because that's what they're here to talk about.
I think we have to vote to change the agenda.
Okay, we can do that.
But we have a solicitor here. He can tell us. Well,
We are still going to do public comment.
Right, there's still going to be public comment. I would just say that if anybody, if I would recommend if anybody still wants to make a statement now, they can, but I think that was good to preface.
Well, I'll invite that. Anybody that wants to make a statement now, we'll welcome that. But if not, I'm gonna again introduce Sean to start talking about this concept so you understand what it is, and then we'll allow for additional public comment at that point. Anyone would like to make one now?
I'd like to make my public comments.
Could you
since I'm
please
on the
stand
agenda.
and state your name for the record? And,
I am Suzanne Fry. I'm on the agenda, and I would just like to make my public comment, and I very much appreciate your information prior to this, but I still want to continue making my comment.
Fine,
Okay, do I do it from here?
that's fine.
All right, very good. As I said, I am Suzanne Fry, and I'm a resident of Lebanon City and a longtime resident of Lebanon County. And I'm here speaking to you, the election board, this morning because you chose to eliminate the election, or the drop box. Obviously, that's what you just referred to. And so when I first heard that the intention is to eliminate, and you actually did eliminate it, I was dismayed. No, I was angry, because it's not only the elimination, but there appeared to be no alternative in the works at that time. It was just a carte blanche, just shut it off. And that was wrong, very wrong. Now I admit, I am saying this now after you've already said you're making alternatives, and that's great. But this is the emotion that I went through prior to this, to you speaking, saying about the alternative. And eliminating the feature of the box without alternatives, this is prior to your speech, it makes it more difficult for voters, especially those with time constraints and with disabilities, to vote. That's wrong, very wrong. Now I may remind you, if I may, that voting should be as easy as possible, and it's something to keep in mind for every action of the election board. And that process of voting has a reasonable amount of checks and balance already in place. And voting, as you read in some of your letters, should not be a hardship for anyone. So I know you realize that. You've already said you agreed with that, and that's fantastic. That is great. But I want to quote a former president who said, "A person without a vote is a person without protection." That's the power of voting. And eliminating the box without alternatives, this is what I'm going through prior to what you said, is just wrong. Now, I'm a member at large of the League of Women Voters of Lebanon of Pennsylvania. And when the League was active here in the county, I was very active. I was editor of the Voters Guide and co-moderator along with WLBR at the Lebanon County League's Candidate Night Forums. And I actually throw in questions as moderator to at least 2 of you on the election board. I am a member of the NAACP. I, most importantly, am an elected official. I am judge of election for my voting ward, 01 East, here in Lebanon City. Now I say all this not in boasting or boasting my listing of endeavors. I am illustrating my commitment to the importance of making the simple act of choosing candidates as easy as reasonably possible. That's your job. As the election board of Lebanon County, I want you to always keep in mind that presidential quote: "A person without a vote is a person without protection." It is your responsibility as the Board of Election of Lebanon County to assure every voter in Lebanon County is protected. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your comment. You know, you're reminding me as you're making a comment. I would pretty much agree with almost everything you said, except one, again, I don't want to argue points, but this is important. That you said eliminating the Dropbox without an alternative. There was an alternative, and that was,
Didn't appear so.
again, that was either put it in the mail, which many people don't trust, well, we get that, or dropping it off at the office, which, again, is not real convenient for some people. Trust me, I'm here every day, and I see people coming in to pay their taxes, and I see them coming up the walk and struggling. I stop to help them come up the steps, hold them by the arm. So I see it, I understand it.
Commissioner, the other alternative is this form.
Yeah, thank you. But I wanted to read one comment that's in today's minutes that I really liked from that last month, Kevin Miller, Anvil. Just to, again, demonstrate there's another point of view on this too. Kevin noted for the record, he echoed, actually it was Rachel Moyer, who recognized and thanked us for eliminating the drop box. So again, there's others that have a different point of view. Kevin stated, he echoed Moyer's statements, adding that he can appreciate the drop box makes it easier to vote, but pointed out that our country wasn't founded on making things easier by giving things to people. It was founded on liberty and protecting people's rights. And there is always some possibility of fraud when you have a drop box where people are putting ballots in. So there was other comments. So there are 2 points, but again, even before we made the decision, I was already, can we do this a better way? Is there a better way to do this? And I think we've come up with an idea. I hope you agree, but Mr. Drasher, I'll invite you to take the floor now. Unless there are any other comments now, we'll give another opportunity after he presents this concept.
Yes, there are.
Go ahead. Please identify yourself and go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners and everyone. This is a packed house.
Again, could you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Amy Weidstrom, and I serve as the executive director for the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. At the League of Women Voters, our mission is clear: to empower voters and to protect and defend democracy. With over a century of history as a nonpartisan organization, boasting thousands of members and supporters across the state, we are deeply committed to ensuring that every citizen's voice is heard and their vote is counted. I am here today to express our resolute support for the continued availability of the drop box at the Lebanon County Courthouse. This drop box helps Lebanon County voters and is a vital component of the democratic process in the county. As I'm sure you all know, nearly 3,000 voters in Lebanon County used the drop box in the past election. If that percentage of votes cast using the ballot drop box holds steady in the 2024 election, this will affect an estimated 4,500 voters who will be affected by this decision. Ballot drop boxes are a crucial means for citizens to exercise their right to vote securely and conveniently. By offering a way to submit ballots at a time and a place that suits their needs, drop boxes ensure that no voter is disenfranchised due to logistical hurdles or physical challenges. Moreover, drop boxes provide a fail-safe for those who may miss the deadline of mailing their ballots. In a fast-paced world, life can sometimes get in the way of even our best laid plans. I know I have 2 kids, right? They get sick sometimes, whatever. Drop boxes offer a reliable solution for ensuring that every vote counts, regardless of unforeseen circumstances, or the fact that many voters receive their mail-in ballots too late to mail them back by the deadline. Drop boxes also serve a fundamental role in promoting civic engagement. By expanding access to the voting process, particularly for those who face barriers to reaching polling places on Election Day, drop boxes foster a more inclusive democracy where every voice matters and every vote counts. Any attempt to limit or remove this ballot drop box undermines the very essence of democracy. It restricts choice and our freedom to participate in the democratic process. And it puts in place unnecessary barriers to participation. As advocates for democracy, it is imperative that we recognize the indispensable role of drop boxes in safeguarding the integrity of our elections and ensuring that every citizen has a voice. Thus, therefore, I and the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania urge you to preserve the drop box at the Lebanon County Courthouse. Let's reaffirm our collective commitment to democracy and ensure that all voices of all citizens in Lebanon County are heard loud and clear. Thank you.
the risk of delaying Mr. Drasher, two things. Our job is not to make elections as easy as possible. They are to follow the law, and which is what we're trying to do, but also make sure that if there are weaknesses that we address them as we see them, but we have to follow the law. The issue of security is vital. A lot of folks are concerned about voting irregularities and so on. Other counties have evidence with Dropbox issues. This form is for people who have an emergency at the last minute, or have a mail ballot and are handicapped. That they have up to 6 weeks when the mail ballots, most of them go out ahead of the election. They can find a neighbor or friend to designate them to take the ballot in. So there were alternatives that were, or plus if it's a mail ballot, the logical leap would be that use the post office if you've chosen a mail ballot to do it. So I just wanted to clarify, we've taken a lot of hits on making it as convenient as possible. That I don't believe is, I think convenience is important, but I can tell you with the feedback that I got, several people have violated the law by carrying more than one ballot to that drop box. And one of those persons, I won't identify it, is in this room. You know, do you want us to allow knowingly that things are being violated with the law that is the legislators' obligation to change it if they wish? But right now, the way it is, it's one vote, one ballot per voter. So anyway, that's just a couple of things I wanted to tighten up as far as why I was motivated to do this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say something. Some of the comments that I got were very telling. And one kind of, I remember the stories. And the one was, respectfully, Commissioner, if you know somebody who violated the law, why didn't you report it? And then they could have reviewed the tape and taken appropriate steps.
But I only found out during the feedback that we got when we removed the Dropbox. So I felt that's the reason.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Kuhn, Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Litz. My name is Duncan MacClane, and I live in South Lebanon Township. And I do volunteer for several civic organizations, including a League of Women Voters. But I'm representing only myself today. First, may I say that by holding this meeting, you are upholding two of the three key pillars of our American Democratic Republic, namely the rule of law, including the Sunshine Act, and your dedication to free, fair, and secure elections. And for supporting these two of the three pillars, I commend you. I wish to make 2 points. First is that whether or not the Dropbox is retained, disabled persons, such as my own wife, have the option in every Pennsylvania jurisdiction to designate the agent to legally obtain and deliver the ballots. My wife did download the form, and I brought it here the other day, and the staff of the election office was most accommodating. So I urge the commissioners to widely publicize this option throughout the county. Beyond the Dropbox itself, my bigger concern has been the board's insinuation as justification for Dropbox removal that our elections in Lebanon County are anything but completely secure. This idea is wrong-headed, in my opinion. In the first place, it undermines faith in our elections and democracy. It could inflame fear or even violence aimed at paid staff or the volunteer election workers. And lastly, it is an implied insult to those election workers. To remedy what I assume was the commissioner's unintentional disrespect of our election workers and for the elections themselves in Lebanon County, I propose 4 actions by you beyond, of course, retaining the Dropbox. First, inviting our new director of elections, Sean Drasher, to provide testimony on the record about the security systems embedded in the process. Second, to also invite him to give summary of instances of election fraud here and elsewhere in the Commonwealth, which my understanding are close to zero. Third, to proclaim a full-throated resolution that our election system in Lebanon County is free, is fair, and is secure. And lastly, to issue a similarly full-throated thank you to both paid staff and volunteer poll workers who are unsung heroes, true patriots, and in this day and age, models of courage. So to summarize, I urge publicizing the ballot delivery agent option. I urge taking public testimony from Director Drasher. And lastly, I urge the commissioners to publicly endorse and commend our election workers and our secure elections. Doing this, as well as retaining the drop box, would shore up the third and final pillar of our democracy, namely that our elected officials keep good faith with those who serve. Thank you.
So again, if you don't mind, we will take a pause in public comment. I see someone is asking to speak. You go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Hunter. I live in North Lebanon Township. I've been a lifelong resident of Lebanon County. My husband and I have the nicest neighbor in the world, and I'd like to share with you a true story. Last November, I better tell you about my neighbor. She's 97 years old now. She's given up the right to drive. She thought that was wise, but she's smart as a tack yet, and she follows the news. She's just interested in the community and life. And at this point in her life, she has decided, since she doesn't drive, and she's getting frail now at 97 and her legs are getting a little weak, she's decided to use the mail-in ballot approach. So last November, my parsley was still going strong, and she loves to cook. She gets around her kitchen by leaning on counters, but she is still independent. So I took some parsley over, and we got chatting, and I said to her, well, are you going to vote this time around? And she said, I only got my ballot in, there's only 2 days left. What am I going to do? And I said, my husband and I can drive you down to the drop box. And she demurred. She didn't want to be a bother. And I said, look, it's simple. Bob can drive you up to the curb, and there's only a couple steps. You can lean on me, and I can walk you to that box and walk you back to the car. She finally agreed, and we did that, and she was so appreciative. The dear lady gave me chow chow from the bazaar of her church. She still works with her church. It was her recipe too, by the way. A wonderful lady. None of that would have been possible without the drop box, because there was no time to mail. If I were her, I wouldn't have trusted the mail to get things there on time. Goodness. So what I want to say is that her not having that ability to solve her problem in a simple way with that drop box, that would have affected her self-esteem, her belief in what her horizon should be as a senior citizen. And it also affected her dignity if she wouldn't have the drop box. About that dignity, my neighbor let me know in no uncertain terms that she was not going to go down to the local polling place in lieu of dropping her ballot in a box. She is like so many of the demographics in Lebanon County, in that she didn't want to be observed as a frail person for all the world to see. She didn't want to be fussed over, you might say. And so for her, the ease of that Dropbox was the right choice for her. The Dropbox is secure. It's in a safe place where she wouldn't have felt threatened. It's a reliable choice when time is of the essence, as it was in her case. It's convenient in that it avoids paperwork such as the folks that are hospitalized would have to go through in order to vote. And that paperwork applies to not only the citizens, but the county too. It's accessible if someone can't walk far. And that Dropbox provides dignity and respect. It protects, it restores, it improves the quality of life in Lebanon County, and these are all things that you as county commissioners subscribe to. And I would hope that you would restore the ballot Dropbox. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Again, this is why I was asking your indulgence to take a pause. And again, thank you for sharing, because she's not alone. There's many people in similar situations, so we understand that. So what if I were to say to you, if we came up with a process that made that Dropbox that some would argue is not secure, some say, oh, it is secure. To me, it occurred to me many weeks ago, depends on your definition of security. If you're taking your ballot and dropping it in there, I feel secure that that ballot is going to get into this office, to this gentleman, and get counted. I don't think there's any argument there. But what we're saying is other people can drop ballots in that may not be legal. So it's not quite as secure as I like it, and it's not quite as convenient as I like it, because that woman would have to get out of the car. So what if I would say to you, we'd like to come up with a process that's even more secure, but also even more convenient for people like her. Would you think that would be a good idea?
We are all here to listen.
That's why I was saying, could we take a pause to listen to what the proposal is, and if you have additional comments, we'll take them.
I just want to say, I'm sorry, my name is Pat Steely.
Sir, could you step to the side a little bit? Thank you.
I just wanted to say, though, I'm hearing what you're saying about presenting an alternative, but the baseline there is what I'm hearing is it's not secure. And that really concerns me, because your job as commissioners are to assure Lebanon County that we have a safe process. What is this evidence that you're speaking about that we don't have a secure Dropbox? It's been investigated. So I just want to piggyback on what Dr. MacClane has already said. We need a fair, safe, and secure system, and there is nothing that has proven that here in Lebanon County that we don't have that in place by having a lockbox. So although I admire your willingness to look at another alternative, the baseline, the foundation of what you're saying to me is wrong. And what really concerns me is I feel like this is part of a bigger narrative that we have of creating a panic that we don't have a safe election system, and that's filtering down, trickling down from somewhere else.
You can read into our area. Again, it's about, can we make it as secure as possible and as convenient as possible? So you have one more?
Yeah, I'd just like to say what she's saying I think is true. As soon as I heard about this, I thought of Trump and a big lie, and that you guys, who I respect in most ways, hang on, are playing into this. No, you're supporting
He
it.
just wants you to introduce yourself for the record.
Oh, I'm Gary Gates. and you are playing into it, you're supporting it, you're saying our elections are rigged, so now we gotta have more secure.
You didn't say where he's from.
I'm from Palmyra, Pennsylvania.
Address.
And
You're having to recognize the chair, so be
no,
quiet.
and I really feel, I know you're a great guy in most ways, but you are playing into this lie. You're encouraging the fact that, oh, the past election was rigged. Now we gotta straighten it out. I served as judge of elections, and I know that the workers are honest people, that this is a very fair election, and now you're saying it isn't? You're implying it? No, you're implying it with this action? There were workers on my list. Oh no, I'm not coming because I'm afraid to go and be a voter worker now because of this lie. And I'm going to take it further. Wonderful presentation, but this is very emotional. And I'm saying you guys are setting it up that it's going to happen again. And that is infuriating. How dare you challenge our election system? No, because if it doesn't get resolved that you guys say we do have good, honest election, it will happen again. There'll be another January 6th with a lying president who attacks our voting system, and you guys are playing into it. Where is the courage? I mean, really, Chris Christie stands up. He's a Republican. I'm an anti-Republican. And he tells the truth, and he gets put down, and you guys play into the big lie. And I'm telling you, I'm very disappointed in you in this action, because the bigger picture, as you say, is that you're setting this up to happen again, and this is not good.
Willing to listen to an alternative? I assure you, this is about getting it as fair as possible, as secure as possible, and as convenient as possible. That's the goal. So, Sean, would you like to go up to the table? You're 5 minutes. Okay. Everybody can hear.
I'll probably flip that over here in a second. So. Actually, welcome everybody. I'm Sean Drasher. I'm Director of Elections here in Lebanon County. I know a lot of you. Good to see you again. My co-workers that are in the room. Shout out to Troop 203 in Hershey, who is watching this as part of their Citizenship in the Nation badge. Carson will do a border review on Friday night. Good to see you. Folks, I have the same concerns about Dropbox. There are two sides of this conversation. I know that, and I am strictly speaking on the ops side. And something I've wanted to explore for a very long time was ways that we could make ballot delivery here to the courthouse even more accessible than we already were. So this is as good a time as any to bring that up. We have a proposal in hand here to discuss with commissioners, and it is not in final form. We have to work out some details, and that's fine. But what we are looking at doing is setting up a handicap accessible drop-off point in the parking lot that is drive-up. So people don't even have to get out of their cars, because I have been emptying that box personally many times, and I've watched people struggle to go 100 yards across the parking lot and get a walker over the edge of the curb to carry me a ballot. It is something that costs some money to do something like this, and it's something that, while I would have loved to do it from day one, it wasn't available at the time, just budgets. So right now what we're looking at doing is in this parking lot, probably 30 yards from where the old drop box was, with no curbs in the way, is setting up a drop-off point. It will be fully manned, so it's staffed for the same hours as the drop-off box was there, so we'll be able to make sure there is somebody double-checking. One person, one ballot, no worries, they're gonna be right there. That person will be in a shelter of some kind, which we're trying to figure out how to do right now and get in place by the election. It'll be set up. We are mailing ballots out it's not a hard date. There's testing to be done, proofreading to be done, but we are shooting for 6 weeks ahead of the election, and we are trying to get this system in place. It won't be ready the day the ballots hit the mail. It just takes a little bit of time, but it will be ready a few weeks after. We'll have to decide what we can do for staffing and when we can get it ready for that first day. It'll be determined by the commissioners. But I think it's a great plan. It is in every way, an improvement over our old drop box. It is a drop-off point, it is more accessible, and it is manned. If there is a way to meet both sides of this conversation, I think we're doing it. We have a map here to show how it'll... I made it this far. So right here is where all of you walked into the courthouse, and right here is where the drop box was. There is a loading ramp here and a handicap accessible entrance to the building on the side of the building, like just to the left of the entrance here. We're going to set up some sort of kiosk, a shed, a bus shelter. We're working out what we can get here in time right here, and we will be able to have traffic come right in, drive right up, and then drop off their ballot on the driver's side right there. So hours will be 8:30 to 4:30, just like the drop box was. If we can do expanded hours on the last day of elections to match the legal voting hours, we can do that as well. And we'll have a traffic flow that gets people in and out without blocking the entrance to the building. So that's what we're proposing about doing. I personally think it's a great plan. Yeah.
As of now, April 23rd, will a ballot box drop-off be available?
Meaning?
Either this one or...
This is the plan we're proposing. So we have to vote on it, and then we have to work out the fine details.
So we don't know if there's going to be a ballot drop-off available April 23rd, yes or no?
April 23rd, oh, for the election.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're about to
Yeah,
vote on.
and he
That's
just
what
asked
we're
about
discussing.
expanded hours, so.
Yes.
You said that was going to be driver's side accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case that I gave you, that elderly lady was a passenger. And I'm looking forward and thinking now a lot of people, seeing that you have this drive-up drop, will think that it's okay to just hand my ballot to the driver and let him drop it, which is not what you would want. Is that correct?
Actually, no, I don't see a problem there at all. It's manned, it's not a box, it's a person. It's an employee of our office or a temporary employee that will be manning.
Just talking about the passenger handing it directly as opposed to the driver.
It'd be no different than if a husband and wife walk to my desk together and one of them holds the two ballots as they walk in. If they're there together with me, I can still collect it.
So prior to this, when my husband and I walked up to the ballot box, we both made sure that we each dropped our own ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're saying it's okay for my husband and I to drive up to your new drop-off location, for me as a passenger to hand my ballot to my husband.
In my sight? Sure.
He can now drop 2 ballots.
He's not dropping 2 ballots. You're
without
really
ballot.
you're splitting this. You're driving up together and I'm watching you hand me the ballot. He's going like this. It's passing the potatoes at the kitchen table. That's fine.
But that's all I would have done at the ballot box site that you have now. I could have easily passed the potatoes to my husband and said, here, you put these 2 potatoes in the box. Now you're saying it's okay to pass the potatoes. Just asking because I know how lawyers and legal authorities think and work, and I fear that the next step is that right down the road from your great plan is the flaw where somebody says, oh no, this doesn't work either, because now you're passing that ballot to somebody else.
As a matter of fact, we have a lawyer in the house. Matt, would you mind addressing that?
Yes, I would. For everybody that doesn't know me, I'm Matthew Bugley. I'm the Lebanon County Solicitor. I think I understand what you're trying to say, Where your concern is negated, however, is the fact that under this proposal, there will be a representative of our election office.
Excuse me, Matt.
Yes.
Just a point of a reference. This concept in my mind is really an extension of the voter registration office. It's not a drop box, it's an extension, a satellite office per se. So.
That's correct. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Coon. This is an extension of so to understand people's concerns with regard to coming up the steps or having to take the elevator, etc. This is an extension. So rather than, as Director Drasher said, somebody handing the ballot over the counter in the office, it's a representative from his office there to collect the ballot. So there is no legal liability with regard to if somebody from the election office witnesses the person in the driver's side, just pass it over to the election office, the election official. There's no legal liability with regard to that. The concern, however, was with regard with the previous system. As you mentioned, there may be situations. You may remember there was an instance where Governor Wolf and his wife actually said she had taken 2 ballots to the ballot box, and a lot of people maybe don't understand that that's a violation of the election code. So I just wanted to elaborate on that.
So an intermediary fix could have been, as you are pointing out, having a representative at the ballot drop box would have allayed a lot of the fears of the commissioners that somebody was going to pull a fast one. Now and only now are you going to put that personage in place who will check each ballot, and that's excellent. That's what we want. And yes, it is marvelous that you are going to simplify, and not even expect my frail neighbor to have to get out of the car anymore. That's the plus here. But the fact of the matter is, having a real person at that drop box, if you had all those fears prior, then the answer would have been to get somebody out there at the drop box when you had all those fears of tampering, and you would have allayed a lot of your own fears in the first place. But yes, you have been pushed to come up with a better, simpler system for all citizens, and that is what we indeed want. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Daniel Hottenstein from Cornwall Borough. I'd like your assurances that if the person who's in the booth has to take a break, that it will be continuously manned, and also the assurance that on election day, if the cars are around the block trying to get in, that the deadline will be honored insofar as everybody who is in line in cars waiting to cast their ballots will be accommodated.
I can address that because we empty the drop box throughout on election day, and I know pretty much throughout all the elections at what comes in. And between the final few hours of election day, it's not common for us to get 3 to 4 ballots, even during very busy elections. Those last few hours, we get almost nothing. So I don't see that being a problem.
Well, to respond to your
But
concern, yes, it would be our obligation.
I would think that it would be treated like a polling center. That
during the hours,
yeah.
some of these, we have to. That's one of the logistical things we need to plan for. People can't sit out there for 8 hours at a time without a bathroom break or for lunch.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on that schedule to allow that.
And I would say whoever's in line till 8 o'clock. After that, you're out of luck. But if you're in line in your
Just like
car,
we would at a polling
these
place,
are all
yeah.
parts of things that I would agree to.
And again, what are the hours that will be staffed?
We're working.
We haven't
We have 2 months
finalized
to
the
do.
debate, so that's part of the vote. Our drop box was always open 8:30 to 4:30, so that is what I had in my proposal. And then if there were expanded voting hours, like on election day, where they are allowed to bring things into my office, I think it would be worthy of bringing that up in the proposal too.
Important to note, it doesn't close the office, and again, is another important note, that satellite location will be only to drop off a ballot.
Yes.
If there's other issues, they'll have to come to the office or call the office. So,
Pat Hottenstein, Cornwall Borough. Are you going to ask to see ID? How will you know that the driver who is giving the ballot is the person whose name is on the ballot?
we
or
don't,
the
we don't
passenger?
know that right now.
Yeah, I can address
We're not
that.
allowed to ask for ID.
Yeah. So the law here is the law. Like we're bound by the law. We are allowed, if we have a concern, we're allowed to ask somebody to show us ID. They are not obligated to give it to us. And that's the law, whether they come into my desk or even a polling place. Now, if they vote in person in the law, and there is a judge of elections, and we have a couple of them in here, fantastic ones, they have the authority to say something's fishy here, you have to use a provisional ballot, we have to do more research. Unfortunately, within the scope of the law, which we can't go outside of, they have to, that won't work in this situation. Like, I cannot ask for an ID.
I realize.
Well, they
under
can't
the
provide,
current
force
system
it.
with the Dropbox, there's no ID.
Mm-hmm.
My question is this a way to force some sort of voter ID?
Oh, no, completely unrelated.
I think I can
Yeah.
address it simply with repeating what I'm Jamie Waldenmuth, County Administrator. This is an extension of the office. What happens at the counter over here is what happens at the drop location in the parking lot. Nothing more, nothing less. Currently, the way someone comes to the counter is they hand it. They're not requested to give an ID. If two people are there, two people hand them. It's the same in this proposal. So it's an extension. I mean, if you could physically move the counter out to the parking lot, that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yes, thank you. Since we're talking about this proposal, I did jot down some notes. I'd like to know about that canopy that I see, if that's what I'm seeing, can block the cameras. Right now we have 3 cameras that are on the Dropbox. I don't know that that would be there. And those cameras can help to ID the person dropping. So that's very important if somebody does try and break the law, because there's a lot of upstanding citizens here who follow the law, and somebody who tries to test it should be called out. Next, the traffic issue. A single lane, even a double lane of traffic coming from one side, it's going to wrap around who knows how many blocks to get in here under busy times, and I really feel that traffic is an issue with what you're proposing. It's nice to hand it to a person, but we could just as easily have a person standing by the drop box, and then I know it's a bit inconvenient if you're not handicapped to pull up to the handicap part, but the other people can find a parking place and walk in. I think that these are some of the things. And also, even though I know, and Sheriff, you're gonna get mad at me, but I heard you say that you don't enforce. But the truth of the matter is the camera is monitored from the sheriff's office. And so if there is confrontation, you heard about all the people, this is a presidential election. If there is confrontation, right now, you cannot see the deputies because they're behind a glass door. But moving it to this other location, they're going to be further away from a sheriff deputy who may have to respond to an emergency, and I can't imagine they wouldn't. So these are some of the questions I have and concerns. Is it nice to hand it to a person? Yes, but we could still accomplish that. And in fact, our election worker could walk from the drop box over to the curb if somebody is having trouble walking and getting out of their car. Those are just some of the things I see on a first take.
Yes, ma'am.
Maureen Mulligan, Cornwall Borough. I'm wondering, it seems like this is going to go through, assuming that the details can be worked out, getting a sense of the group. But if not, will you reconsider the Dropbox option?
take one step at a time. That's all I can say.
Are you open to it though? Are you open to the idea?
I'm focused on trying to make this as secure and convenient as possible.
I'll answer that I would not want to bring the box back because of the evidence that I have and that people have told me that they violated the law after we took it away. It's just, to me, a common sense thing, especially when you have an affidavit that you can have somebody sign to bring your ballot in if you have an emergency or you're handicapped. And there are other remedies. But let's, as my commissioner said, let's take one step at a time. We have some details to work out, but if you want my answer, it's no.
Yes, ma'am.
Laura Quick from Palmyra. What has not been mentioned yet to this day, first of all, I like the idea, it's great, is the original reason why we're all here, is that this was not on the agenda in January 18th, that you were going to remove the drop box. That is in violation of sunshine laws. And now, unless this goes through, unless this new idea goes through, there is no drop box anymore, and no one's addressing that point.
Well, I will gladly make a motion to reinstate the drop box at the appropriate time.
If I could very briefly, Commissioner, address the point that was made with regard to your allegation regarding the Sunshine Act. After the January 18th meeting in which the board voted to eliminate the drop box, I received a letter from the ACLU of Pennsylvania. The ACLU of Pennsylvania had made several allegations in their opinion that this board had violated the Sunshine Act. There were some of the things that were contained in the letter that I then provided them with further information. One of the allegations was that the Board of Elections meeting was not advertised under the terms of the Sunshine Act. I provided the ACLU of Pennsylvania with the proof of advertising from Director Drasher that it was advertised at least 3 days in advance in the Lebanon Daily News. There was an allegation that the description on the agenda was not sufficient enough. On the January 18th agenda, which was posted on our website the day prior to the meeting, it contained the words mail-in ballot, drop box discussion. There was a disagreement between the attorneys from the ACLU and myself, and I've had a very good rapport with the attorneys from the ACLU. So there were allegations that were made, but in my judgment, the county did not violate the Sunshine Act. And I would have been willing to take that position, and if the ACLU would have filed a lawsuit, then we would have defended ourselves accordingly. However, case law indicates that the quickest and most effective way to cure a violation of the Sunshine Act is to take that item and to place it on a subsequent agenda. I made that decision to do that, to put it on, to have it put on the agenda for this meeting in conjunction with the 3 county commissioners, because I didn't want a situation where the ACLU was filing a lawsuit and we were in court arguing over something that could be easily ratified at this meeting. So just to be clear from our perspective, and the ACLU may have a different approach, but I've been happy to work with the ACLU and their concerns with regard to their allegations, and so that is why we are here discussing this matter and moving forward. And it is properly on the agenda.
Rachel Moyer, Jackson Township. I would just like to say thank you all first. As another elected official like you, I know this isn't easy, and you all are doing a really good job, and I appreciate you all very much. I would like to point out that several counties have already removed drop boxes. One of them is our neighbor, Lancaster County, and I believe this would be their 3rd year of doing that. So we will not be the only ones with this removal. And I would like to echo Commissioner Phillips' comments about the affidavit. That is something legally that people can do to turn in their no excuse mail-in ballot. And I do like the gentleman who said that if there could be more instructions, clear ones out about the affidavit, because a lot of people do not know. If that could be sent out, that would be great also. As it returns to the drop box, it is not in the law at all. So I appreciate you all for removing it. Our state legislature had an opportunity with HB 1300 a couple years ago to have drop boxes in, but unfortunately it was vetoed by then Governor Wolf. So we do not have drop boxes in our current election code law now. And I appreciate you all standing up for the law. The only question, I have two questions. One, is this new proposal, will it be a stress for our election office staff to have another area to cover because they are so busy? And two, will this be an added tax for taxpayers to pay? Like, is there an added expense for that?
Good question. Sean, you want to? I can say yes. We're going to need some help. We're going to put a plan together to support their staff.
I, for one, am excited that I may have the authority to raise taxes. Is that something I can do? I'm not elected, so. No, I don't like high taxes. It will be a strain, and so I would like to take this opportunity to extend job offers to anyone in attendance. I am dead serious. We are looking to man this, if it's passed, man this probably in 2 4-hour shifts a day. I will have to pull from my office to cover holes, but I have 3 full-timers. That's it. And I already struggle to fill all the temporary job workers that we hire around this time of year to keep the data processing going in the office. So we will need help, and that is a big concern of the commissioners when we got to talk about it earlier, how we're going to man this or staff this drop-off point. I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but I've put forth a couple of ideas where we could draw from county resources already to fill some of the holes, but that certainly won't be enough. We're going to need help. And I will probably be putting out an all points bulletin to our poll workers to say, hey, you want to pick up some extra cash? We already have people that are sworn in and reliable, so we'll be reaching out to them as well. But it's a concern. And it's a limiting factor. It's one of the reasons why we can't just throw it up immediately, because we're struggling to fill even a narrower window. So there's a lot for us to hash out internally here.
Yes, sir.
William Doherty, South Anvil Township. My question is for Commissioner Kuhn. At the beginning of the meeting, you read 3 email messages that were in support of the drop boxes, and later read 1 that was in support of eliminating the drop boxes. And just to ask you, in the number of emails that you received, would you say then that 75% of the emails you received were for the drop box and 25% were for eliminating it?
I would say the huge majority that I received were saying that they wanted to reinstate the drop box.
95% of the ones I got.
Commissioner Phillips, the same?
Same.
And you say 95%?
95%. And I actually, before today, printed out a couple dozen, and I got another dozen minimum this morning again, so they keep coming.
Okay. And one comment I'll make, that everybody in this room has a secure drop box at your home. And there's a blue one right out in the front of the building. There's a bank of them 2 blocks down. So it's called a mail-in ballot for a reason.
And it didn't work out in the last.
Well, then you don't trust the USPS. Your great government services.
That's
right. Ma'am, excuse me. Ma'am, excuse me. We need to keep order. You weren't recognized, so please, if you wish to speak, raise your hand. We'll recognize you.
Sorry.
Ma'am.
My name is Therese Reichauer, and I was the first letter that was read, first email. So I really appreciate you doing that. I wasn't going to speak because you pretty much covered my issue, but apparently your comment, I just feel like I have to respond to it, because I have had packages lost in the U.S. mail, and I know some people just want to slam the post office system and say, get rid of it, but they've been hampered and underfunded, and personnel has been taken away from them. Equipment has been taken away from them. I'm the lady who sent a thank you card to her friend in Palmyra, a 15-minute drive, and it took 12 days for it to get there. So I don't trust putting my mail-in ballot in the U.S. Postal Service until you come up with a more secure, reliable way. I just won't do it. I am also, I have to admit, I'm slightly offended by the comments that were made about voting wasn't meant to be easy.
No, I just said my job is not to make it as easy as possible. That was my...
Okay, well, I'm paraphrasing, but I think I might have looked at it like that until I got older and I started having health issues and started having relatives with health issues. And it's easy when you're young and healthy to say, well, why can't those people just get themselves to the poll? But in 2018, a year before the pandemic, I was hospitalized as a result of just the flu because I have asthma. And that's why I take the mask with me. And because of that, I signed up for a mail-in ballot in 2020 so that I could cast my vote, because I vote in every election, if at all possible. And I was determined to have my vote be counted. And in 2020, this drop box was available. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I like your solution. I take a little umbrage at people who are casting about that nefarious things happen there without any proof. I mean, I haven't heard anyone say yet what the proof was that the ballot box that was tampered with, the drop box, was tampered with. It's easy to ruin people's reputations and institutions' reputations by casting about these aspersions without showing any proof. So that's one thing. I was grateful not to have to, anything you come up with where I don't have to walk into a public situation for a long period of time with people who are coughing, standing in line. That's exactly why I didn't vote in person anymore. I voted in person for 40 years and could not vote in person anymore without feeling that I was not going to be safe. I went back to mailing in person a year ago when I thought, okay, COVID has kind of subsided and I feel like I can go in there at a non-busy time. And then that worked fine for the spring election, the primary. Then in the fall, I had one of these unforeseen circumstances that I would have never thought happens in life. I have a sister who lives in the Lehigh Valley. She has health problems. She calls me the night before election day. She's having a medical emergency. I have to call an ambulance to take her to the hospital. I drive down to the Lehigh Valley. I'm with her overnight in the ER. The next day she has an emergency medical procedure. I'm there all day. I did not get to vote in the general election. So I'm back to mail-in ballots. And once again, I want a system that works. Not for convenience. I'm not here because I'm too lazy to walk in and cast my vote. I just need to have some alternatives if we have a big outbreak of COVID. If it's the flu, it doesn't matter. It can really compromise me. So I really appreciate you looking at other ways to make it possible for people who, like me, need a safe way, secure way to get our ballots in, and people who have a lot more handicaps than I do. So again, I thank you for your opportunity to speak.
What was Since I was referred to, do I get a chance to respond? Thank you. I'm in the direct mail business for 35 years, so I get what's the problems with the USPS, and it's not underfunding, it's a failed system. And so everybody that wants to look at me and point fingers because I said about it's a mail-in ballot, it's a mail-in ballot. Your mailbox is federally secured by law. Nobody can take anything out of it. The system is flawed. If you want to change the system, then you go and address the USPS, not the county commissioners, not myself, about your mailbox is federally secured by law. The blue boxes on the street are federally secured by law. Change the legislation. Call your representative in Harrisburg and tell them that they're not giving you enough time to receive, fill out, mail back in your mail-in ballot. Every piece of postage that goes through the system, a picture is taken of that piece of mail. You can sign up for an email every day to show what mail you're getting. So I advise you to do that. Look at that, and you'll see. So if your ballot is in your mailbox on the Monday before the election, it's postmarked that evening, your mail-in ballot is valid. Thank you.
I just want to, I actually have a, I'm sorry, I do an important clarification there. Postmarks aren't relevant. It's only when I get them, I stamp them. The date that's signed on the back is not relevant to that part of the conversation, and the postmark is not relevant. It's the date I receive in my hand. We stamp it right away, and that is what we go by.
So that is something that's changed.
No, that's always, it's always been.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Getting off track in debating about the postal system.
That is true.
Can I,
Sorry.
again, make a statement that, again, any system that we have is not perfect. The old system of going to the polling place and voting in person was not perfect. But again, now we have a system that says that any one of us can apply for a mail-in ballot. And it has its set of flaws too, or imperfections. Again, we're focused on trying to do this as secure and convenient as possible.
Can I write on that real quick before you go to somebody else? So I just want to say that this has only been around for about 3 years. It's brand new. In the big picture, it's brand new. And that first year that it was around, everybody was doing their own thing across the state. There were mistakes made. It's learning. I mean, a lot of well-meaning people trying to do the right thing still made mistakes and are still learning. And we're still learning. This board was not even seated last year up until mid-December, to make any decisions on changes in any of this policy. So this is all brand new stuff. We're kind of figuring some of this out. There was a reference to the timeline and why we didn't do things earlier, because we're learning and we're trying to make it better. And here's the next step. There are, oh boy, I don't want to get, there are long-term 10-year, 15-year plans and ideas out there too of ways that we can improve. But this is next year plan. It doesn't mean we're not thinking about other things other ways we can improve too.
Mike, Commissioner.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to point out, I know that the post office has gotten a lot of flack, but I have personally observed that on election night at 8 o'clock, any piece of mail at the Lebanon post office is hand delivered to this office, and 2 people go down and accept it from the postman and bring it upstairs. So I mean, they've taken a lot of flack, and some of it, you know, we can understand why they're short-staffed and all that. And I wanted to point out that if it is in physically in the Lebanon post office, they bring it over.
Yes, sir.
Just, I'd like to know, because of the decision you made, a statistical analysis of fraudulent voting in the last election. What were the percentage of fraudulent votes from polls and from the ballots that were cast with the outdoor?
I don't have any. I don't have any. And again, I've heard many people say at local level and the national level. And
no, I'm talking about here.
No, I'm saying I don't have any evidence. I don't have not one other than people telling me that they've actually done so. That they've handed in one for a spouse.
So we're solving a problem, which I support your solution. We're solving a problem that didn't exist.
No, I'm making a process better.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
you for.
I don't have any evidence. That doesn't mean that illegal voting didn't happen. I just see that as the process. When you evaluate the process, when somebody does an audit of their finances, they look at the numbers and they actually compare the numbers. But a thorough audit is going to actually look at the process as well too to find flaws. And I see this as a process that has some flaws, and we can improve upon. That's it.
When do you expect to be able to make a decision?
Well, we can get back to our agenda moving forward, but you're entitled to have your comments. Yeah.
It's the same question.
Yes, ma'am.
Amy Weisstrom from the League of Women Voters. I just have an accessibility question with a new proposal. If you don't have a car and need to use this system, is it safe for pedestrians? Is it accessible to transit? Is it, right, or is it in the middle of a parking lot where people, right? So not everybody has cars. So is it accessible to more people than just drivers?
Not transit necessarily.
Well, I mean, not like you would have the bus pull up and let people get out. But I meant like, is it, I mean, that would be great. But
actually, I would like to hear the legal issues with dropping off 37 ballots. I think there might be some objections to that.
I mean, is it accessible?
I don't think so. So what we're doing, if I can be a little specific, I'll take a minute to maybe go into this a little bit more. So Sean introduced this, and here's the building. Look, the entrance to the building in the back where the drop box was. The reason this box is this size is we're taking these 5 parking spaces and we're going to put some sort of a structure, just a weather for the staff that's there, right here behind this edge of curb, so it's not in traffic. It's so that the structure itself, you know, couldn't be hit by a vehicle that might be coming through too fast or something. And then and it could be, yes, it could be walked up to. Yes, there's nothing. It's not vehicle only. I mean, if there was a question about what happens if it backs up, you know, and so on. By the way, this is the least amount of pedestrian traffic in this parking lot is over here. Could have put it here, but there are a lot of cars looping, a lot of cars pulling in, backing out. So this seemed like it was the least amount of pedestrian traffic, so it's safe. If the queue gets too large, maybe in the second to last week or whatever, we'll just take this row and then allow it to kind of peel over here, and you know, we'll deal with whatever we need to when it comes to traffic.
What about the traffic on the street, Jamie, and Elm Street and Oak Street and?
I mean, it could.
And
I can't say it
8th
won't back up, but this process should be so quick. It's just a hand it and go. I mean, that's why we're not engaging. We don't intend to engage about every issue that a person might have, every question they might have about voting. If it's more than dropping off a ballot, then the person needs to call or go inside. We are going to make available the form for a proxy to drop someone's off. If, say, someone shows up, they have 2 ballots, they were unaware, they couldn't drop off their spouses, you know, here's a form. Go have that filled out appropriately and bring it back the next day or whenever.
I also just wanted to point out that while the law doesn't specifically require anybody to provide drop-offs, it doesn't prohibit it either, right? Which is an important point.
John Rose has his hand up.
I'm sorry.
John Rose from North Lebanon. Just to be clear, will this be available for April 23rd this year?
That is our goal, yes.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I would expect it to open at 7 and close at 8.
I would expect on election.
And
that's up to you.
same as the counter would be.
Yeah, the April 3rd election.
Yeah. Yeah.
Commissioner Litz said earlier, it sounded like she wanted to make a motion to reinstate it until it's done. I would like to make a request of that.
When we get back to the agenda, we'll be happy to entertain one.
For everyone here, Jim Menser with Lettown. Sean, you talked about the physical part of what we put in. Do we have a cost estimate for that so far? Secondly, what it may cost for staffing it, and would this be paid for from monies from Election Integrity Fund?
Yes.
Go ahead and raise
Yes. Jim, you're fired. This is all part of some animated discussions, and we need to work this out, workshop a lot of that. In terms of structure, cost, things like that, it kind of depends on what we're able to get in time, delivered or built in time for the election. We have some different approaches to that. The cost varies a lot. So give us time. Just give us time on that.
In terms of the structure, it may just simply have something that is custom built, you know, by maybe a shed manufacturer, something that can be put there. We've looked at potentially a bus shelter, and there's an advantage to those because they have that Lexan all around. You can see through every side and so on. I spoke to Lebanon Transit, see if they had any secondhand around. They don't. But what's also important is that it's mobile. so that we can go back to parking spaces again and move it to somewhere, you know, off-site or in a corner of the lower parking lot or something like that. So that hasn't really been determined, but we'll figure that out, I'm confident.
Yeah, if we run into deadline issues for this, I would expect we would get up what we can, and then if we have to revisit it again this summer and then get something more permanent, we will. But the hope is to get something permanent first time around.
Commissioner? What is the direction of the wind? I'm looking at the CO2. Well, there's going to be a lot of it if all those cars are waiting, first of all, but the CO2 coming in at the election worker who is there all day, could they possibly get sick from this? Has the direction of the wind been looked at?
Jim?
No. It's outdoors. I mean,
But if you're sitting there and cars are going by and they exhaust all day long, it could be, I mean, I get affected by it. I don't know about other people.
Based on those considerations on cost and CO2, I would recommend that the vote be tabled till the next meeting, and more specifics on resources needed and Commissioner Litz's issues with CO2 can be addressed.
I'll make a motion to table this until the next election board meeting so we can do more research and get a final plan.
I hear a second. And we'll just continue. Is there any additional public comment at this time? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
For those assembled, Matt Toth from Lebanon Daily News. Sean, can you talk a little bit about the security once the election worker has that ballot? How are you going to secure it? Where are you going to hold it until it comes up to the election office?
In the polling places, we have the secure bags that we use to transport ballots. So what we would do is we would come to an agreement here. We're going to present a few different options for the commissioners on ways that we could secure the ballots once they're taken by the poll worker that is staffing the drop-off point. We are doing it a little bit differently than I've seen done in any other county, but there are other counties that have broken some ground with us already ahead of us. Chester County is one, but there are others as well where they have systems set up not just at their courthouse, but scattered around the county like this. And they have some very interesting ways of doing it, that have worked exceedingly well, but it's also very expensive, some of the stuff done in other counties. So I'm going to be sharing some of that in detail with all the commissioners, and we'll see where we can find a happy medium there, and something cost effective, but it's also secure. Yeah.
This is Sean.
Oh, sorry, I am so sorry, Commissioner Kuhn.
No. Okay. Sean Kitchen with the Keystone Newsroom. I have a couple quick questions. Is it worth the effort and money going into this to go through this, to the construction materials, getting the shed, all this information, then rather just not keeping the drop box? And then how can people produce ballots, which that accusation was made earlier, that ballots could be produced, when the county tracks those ballots when they go from the county offices to the voter and back to the county offices? So how can people manufacture ballots, as you were saying earlier?
I'm so sorry.
I believe this commissioner, or one of the commissioners, made an accusation that people can produce ballots when coming in.
I didn't know that.
They cannot?
No. I'm so sorry. I didn't hear that.
Okay, so it's impossible then for more ballots to come back than were printed.
Now I'm going to create a scenario, but both of my parents, in their later years in life, pretty sure I could have gotten them to sign anything I wanted to say, here, I'm going to take this here. So it's possible, I'm saying. I'm not saying.
But if you print 1,000 ballots, it's impossible for 1,010 to come back, because that's going to be from the county.
Commissioner Kuhn?
Well, each ballot.
So we only print one ballot per person. There are, I had a colleague making fun of me in a previous commissioner meeting. I used the phrase, no, there are no free range ballots. And he called me after the meeting to ask me if there are no organic ballots, or, but there are none. one ballot per person. It's tracked individually by person. Ballots and voting materials are watermarked and barcode tracked, and everything is tied to one individual. So there's none extra out there. And that is a misconception I had before I took this job. I didn't know that. I thought, oh, they just send out ballots, or you pick them up at the post office. That is not the case. You ask for a ballot, you get your ballot only. It's not for anybody else.
It's barcodes.
Yep, everything is tracked. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Tyler Hatfield, Fox 43. I kind of want to get on the more technical side for this new structure. Who will be, talk about the people staffing this new structure. Will they be volunteers?
We have a few ways to approach this. We're going to have to discuss it. But we have we're up to about 450 poll workers in the county that are only currently working on election day. And I can say overwhelmingly they are retired and enthusiastic about the process. So we're going to be tapping into that resource, see who would like to make some extra cash. It will be paid. And we've also floated some other ideas as well. In other counties, they have used county workers where they are able to bring workers out of the municipal building to staff there and maybe work on something else as well. So they're still completing their regular job duties, but maybe getting some sunshine for 4 hours and taking the ballots. I know there's probably a mental image of a long line of cars backing up here throughout the day. That's not the reality. It's a car here, a car there, that add up to a few thousand ballots by the end of the election. But at any one given point, it's not going to be long lines of cars. Maybe at lunch, you'll have 2 or 3, maybe 4 cars at a time at most. But we could use a county worker from another department who may be able to do paperwork in the parking lot for a little while. Constables are used in some areas. They already are associated with my office. They report to the courts. That would be one way we could also potentially look at it. But I think probably the first line would be to reach out to our poll workers, and that's a deep pool for us. Yeah.
And it's 1 or 2 people?
Just because of getting what we can get, I would expect 1. It is an interesting point you asked, Tyler. Tyler, it's an interesting point, Tyler. A lot of our poll workers work as husband and wife crews, and I would imagine if we brought in 1, it would not be unexpected to have a spouse join along. So.
May I just say, I'm a retired physician. I would be happy to work with you with regard to the issue of carbon dioxide. That is not a problem in the outside environment. Carbon monoxide, on the other hand, is. And a simple solution to that is a carbon monoxide monitor in the booth, even though I don't think that's necessary as per your comments, but I would not table the issue because of carbon dioxide concerns.
Thank you. If you'd like to drop your contact information off at the end of the meeting, we'd be welcome. We'd love to have your input.
I'm not a scientist. I apologize for the wrong carbon.
I just wanted, for clarification, is there an intent as of today to make sure that there's some type of collection of ballots at the courthouse by April 23rd?
That is for me.
Yeah, I do still feel that in the big picture this is playing into the big lie, and I would like to ask you if you would be willing to issue a statement that you do believe that our election system is fair and just, and that the results of our last election, especially the presidential election, were valid and good. Would you issue that? And now you're not attacking the system and validating the big lie, but you're only fine-tuning it and making it better. Would you, both of you,
I'll be happy to make a statement.
Will you issue such a statement that you believe that our election system has integrity and that the results of all previous elections were valid? Will you do that so that you don't play into the big lie?
Everything that I've witnessed since being appointed 2 years ago this month, watching this gentleman in action, his staff in his office, and all the poll workers, God bless us for all those poll workers that dedicate so much of their time to make sure that it gets right. Watching the counting process, everything, I have great faith that our people act with integrity and get it right. It's before it gets here that I have concerns of the process. And like I said, any system is gonna have some flaws. Nothing's perfect. So our goal, again, is to make it with as much integrity as possible, but also as convenient as possible.
Can
That's what
Mr. Drasher speak to your concern about the process, the SURE system, the barcoding? What's the potential flaw there? I mean, is that?
No, I think that barcoding system process is good.
Well, that's the system you're talking about.
Things
Don't you
get,
believe in the barcode
again,
system?
we talk about it, we can beat this all day, but the mail system is not perfect. You know, I believe it was the first election that I sat through as the Board of Elections, and that we got notified from the post office the day following the election that they found ballots there.
You couldn't take them?
I was just
couldn't
about to
count
give you a
them.
standing
No, my
ovation.
point is, I don't know what prompted that. Was that just an accident and fell through the cracks, or was somebody holding on to them? We don't know. The process is flawed. So it's open for fraud or just an honest mistake. So that's what, again, we can't control all of that stuff. This is something that we had to make a decision on.
I was just about to leap out of my chair and give you a standing ovation for endorsing our system and all our workers. And then you said, but the process before it gets into the drop box is flawed. And I guess I would say, other than anecdotal, do you have any other, and do you think it's significantly flawed that removing the drop box is going to remedy that?
I don't have any evidence that it's significantly flawed. I've never stated that, but again, I don't know. We don't know that.
You're really playing into ignorance and fear of a lot of Republican voters, and I think you're doing that, you guys, to keep your voting base intact. And that is not good for our republic. You should stand up and tell the truth. Bob, if you have evidence, let's document it, have the specific facts to prove the evidence. And then we'll see the hardcore evidence. You're giving anecdotes. And that's
Anecdotes? No, I said that people told me, since we've taken that box, I've already said that they've admitted to me that they've taken more than one.
Well, let's document
How many?
names and
How many?
facts, and let's see the evidence. Let's see the evidence.
It's hearsay. It's, you know, we can go around about this. You asked me for a statement. I actually.
I would like you to have a statement that you believe are elected.
I heard you. I heard you. I'm just. And by the way, don't threaten me with not voting for me the next time.
No, I'm not threatening you.
I've already notified
you want to keep the other
No, I won't be running again, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
But I did already write down that I have 100% confidence in the volunteers and staff of Lebanon County Elections, and any insinuation or pressure that people have made that came from above. The reality is that the drop box was used 2-to-1 Republican. Just so you're aware of that. That would take away that. So, well, because people are insinuating that the Republicans are voting to take it away because it's 2-to-1 Democrats. Commissioner Litz had accidentally put that out, that it was 2-to-1 the other way, and then she corrected it with the media outlets. But that was, I just wanted to say that. My only weakness in this whole thing is that drop box, and that's why I, voted and made the motion to take it away. I did put evidence out there, if you'd like to see it, from neighboring counties, Lehigh, Chester, that actually went through the drop box and video by video, people putting in 4 or 5, and then once they're in there, you don't know where they came from. They're in with the others. So those were kind of actual evidence that from their cases that they've already adjudicated. So, but then my local concerns about it, because I know the sheriff could speak to this, that the sheriff's office is not monitoring that box. So that was another bit of a fallacy that, there's a guard watching that. They're guarding the courthouse and making sure anybody that gets in there is okay, but they're not also watching that box to make sure that it's one ballot, one voter. So anyway, those are my, I was gonna mention those if we make the motion soon to do the ratification of the removal of the drop box. But you asked for it earlier, so I already had it relatively close to what you're asking.
Did we not get a second on the tabling? No. I thought I heard a second.
No.
Suzanne Fry, Lebanon City, I suggest we get on with the agenda.
Yeah,
Well, we have people who would like to make comments. I respectfully.
Well, you admit that statistically there is no proof of fraud in our elections. Where is the money going to come from for all these changes? Drop boxes work well in other places, in other states. And they've said that the barcodes, you can't drop fake ballots in because the barcode's identified. I vote by mail. When they get my ballot at the office, I get an email. I don't see how you could, it would have to be very sophisticated to vote.
To cheat.
Thank you, fraudulently. But why are we going to put all this money out? Why did you wait till the last minute? I didn't know what this plan was. This may be an improvement, but you're waiting till the last minute.
We're 2 months. We're 2 months out from the election.
Pardon?
We're 2 months out from the election. We're dealing with it. We weren't even on the board of elections last year.
Well, how about if we wait till the next election instead of
Because
rushing
this is-
through, maybe
you for your
replacing
suggestion.
this stuff with something else for the next election? Why don't we do it right the first time if you're gonna do it? Because it sounds like you don't know what you're doing yet.
I do have a follow-up question on this. Sean, just recently, earlier, to the lady's question in the back, I heard you say that a passenger in your site could hand it to another person and hand it to you, or in the office. If the camera is the watcher, and we can go and check that, is that equal?
You mean in the new system?
We have the camera on top of the drop box. Is that the same as you or another person watching someone come from the car with an extra ballot that you can see the car?
I can answer that. The answer is no. In the evidence that's out from Chester and Lehigh, you cannot tell who the people are that are dropping it. So you may very well see somebody handing or doing something, but you don't know. They have masks, they have hoods, so you don't know who they are to identify them as the person to go back to. If they're in front of you in the car, I think that's a much safer way to implement the safety.
If that's where you were going, I would agree that the car drop off is much more secure.
Oh.
I mean, not even.
I mean, it's nice to have them that close, but theoretically, with all of our cameras, we could see the person handing it to the one that carries it up to the drop box.
I think in this case, if I may, just one more. What Sean referred to earlier to put in, I guess, terms that law enforcement uses is chain of custody. So what you have at the drop-off location that's proposed is an employee of the voter registration office witnessing the chain of custody from one person from one side of the car to the other. The other option is the person's not going to be, fixed to their location. They can go to the other side of the car. It's not. But it's a chain of custody, I think, that Sean referred to. That's important.
And this is why Jamie has a corner office.
One more question with Jamie, please. Has the camera moved from the sheriff's office? Because there you have, uniformed people watching that, or that can go back and check that. Or
no, but they're not. No, they're yes. There are terminals that they can view in the sheriff's office, but there's no one sitting watching.
But it can be replayed.
It can be replayed, but they're also, the screens are changing because there's so many. They all have a screen for each. So there are plenty of circumstances where we've had. I don't want to get too far here. With slips and falls, we've had accusations of things, but yeah, they can go back and look at the camera. But I think that what you're getting at, if I understand you, is that is that if the drop box were in place and someone hands someone else their ballot, that a camera could see that and you could go back and review it. If you knew it happened, I suppose yes. But I think in this case, the improvement is there's an election staffer witnessing the chain of custody from one person to the other, or right from the person. So the 1-in-1 is answered. One ballot, one person.
Yes.
I'd like to echo Dr. Hartenstein's suggestion that what's been already tabled, since there hasn't been a second to it, that it's been lifted so you can vote as commissioners on this today, even if it's as an intent to do this, because election is around the corner, and I'm concerned that if you're not willing to put the drop boxes in place, that this system get in place as soon as possible. So I urge you to vote on this.
All right. So we have finished public comment.
Allow me to speak to what you were talking about, Commissioner Kuhn, about your parents, that if you could have, you know, essentially, I'm going to use the term harvested their votes, right? And actually,
It's a hypothetical, yes.
I will tell you that a high elected official in the city happened to be standing next to me at a poll last November and recounted to me that she became aware, or she or he became aware of a similar effort in a elderly residential setting. And what I'm getting at is that I think we're conflating harvesting with technically illegal delivery of your spouse's or neighbors or elderly person's ballot, right? And what I'm suggesting here is that the remedy for harvesting is to get the DA to prosecute. The remedy for the technical, misdelivery of my spouse's ballot, which I'm not confessing to, I've not done that. In fact, I wanted not to do that, and that's why I downloaded the form for her. So that the remedy for that is to keep the ballot box, the drop box, and put a nice QR code. Stop if you're, delivering somebody else's thing. Scan this immediately, download it, get them to sign, come right back, and you'll be in compliance.
Thank you.
So,
you.
First of all, welcome to my job performance review. I've never had so many at one before. So you brought up something there that it's sort of a whole other big concern of mine. And it is, at our previous meeting, I proposed that this summer, my office, talked about extension of my office into the community. We are going to be pushing out into the nursing homes in the county, which we haven't contacted them yet. It's all something we're developing internally. Because, this is very important to note, voting is a non-transferable right. Power of attorney doesn't work. If someone requests to vote, they got to vote themselves. Now, they can be assisted. That's absolutely fine, but it's a non-transferable right. And I am very concerned, particularly in nursing homes, that there are completely qualified voters that are requesting ballots, and where does the nursing home assistance start and end? So we're going to go out, we're going to do some education in the community this summer. There's no way to do it right now. There's a lot on our plate. But we're going to do it this summer, and we're going to make sure that we're all on the same page there. We'll get them the forms they need to assist. We'll explain to the residents that this is their rights, and family can't be voting for them. That's a concern. And that's a concern. That's always been a concern. It's always been a concern. That's nothing new. So we are trying, every year we're making the process better. We're zeroing in on this stuff. But that is the key point there. It is a non-transferable right. And people need to know that. If you have family in nursing homes, you have to make sure that the social director is not voting for them.
Undue influence, it's called.
Yeah. Hey, we do have some business to take care of. We'd like to get to it if we can suspend this public comment time. Thank you.
And by the way, I did add additionally, these sample copies are out there for you to take. There's some left, I believe. If you want them you know, to use for handicap or for folks that have an emergency. Just so they're out there as well. But back to the agenda, I would like to move that we ratify the action of January 18th to remove the drop box.
I would like to address that.
Well, can we get a second first?
I think that that is wrong because it was an illegal meeting, according to the ACLU. Has that been properly addressed?
Yeah, yes, and Commissioner Litz, yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the ACLU had made an allegation, and in contact with the attorneys for the ACLU, I indicated that there was no need to file any complaint, no need for this to go to court, and that the proper procedure under case law to rectify a Sunshine Act, an alleged violation or a violation, is to have action taken at a subsequent meeting.
So he doesn't have to do this because it was done at the last one?
No, there has to be a vote. Yeah, there has to be some.
But now I have a second question, because I want to make a motion to reinstate it. Can I do that?
Absolutely.
All right.
What happened to my motion?
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for that motion? I will second that motion.
And is that the proper word, to ratify or to remove?
To ratify the vote on January 18th, removing the drop box, if that's what you intend to do, Commissioner.
Yeah. If you have discussion on that motion.
Okay. Wow. Actually, I was going to do this under a separate thing, but I think I will do it right now because it's important to get these points in. And in fact, I do have some printouts. I wasn't prepared for this. I mean, I am prepared, just I didn't expect him to make that motion now, since we were talking about a tent or something for the press. For my colleagues. No, that's all right. They can pass them down. Solicitor Sean. And there's a couple here. If anybody else wants them, I'll just slide them down. There's only a few more, but you'll get the gist of it. I'm going to leave this sit here for now. Oh, I gave away my copy. I'll go by this one.
Commissioner, since I have a motion on the floor and it's been duly seconded, can you say how long this will be? Because I may want to call the question.
I have about 2 to 3 minutes here. I think if they get 5, I should at least get 5.
No, that's good. Very good.
Yeah. All right. Number 1, can you trust your elections? And I've heard a lot of this in the discussion today. When you vote, and I say yes, we can. We can have a choice to go to the polls on election day. We can do early voting in the voter registration office. We can apply for either an absentee or mail-in ballot. And we can also drop one of those in the United States Postal Service in hopes that it arrives by election day. And again, there are many reasons it can be delayed. We had a paper shortage. We couldn't get paper, and it's a special paper it's printed on. That's one of the things that happened. It's not all the post office's fault. That's just one example. So we do have an approved drop box, which Commissioner Phillips did vote for. That was before your time, Commissioner Kuhn. But it's not labor intensive. It is under security of 3 cameras. It's locked at nights and weekends so that it can't be other things put in it. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, and was really the first one to bring it up, I believe, caring for a sick family, and I spelled that wrong, you can actually carry it's curable, you can carry a ballot into either the drop box or the election office or at your polling place. The deadline is 8 p.m. on election day to ensure that your vote is counted. That's an advantage over a mailbox, because there you probably have to mail it a week ahead of time to make sure it's counted, but you have a grace period of a week if you have dropping it in on election day. It's handicap accessible, and you don't have to go up a curb. On both sides there are handicap accessible walkways to get onto that level. There are no lines that I've observed that's in front of it. One signature, one ballot, etc. And it reminds you to date and sign your ballot. When it comes to transparency, a candidate may view the count. Likewise, each party can have someone come in and view the count. Results are also posted outside of the poll. Results are posted on the county website. Results are posted in the voter registration office, so you can get your information. There is a challenge period, and that would then involve the courts. We have the media, who does a great job of coverage, so they call things out all the time. With email on file, a voter can be notified. Now, this is separate from your email notification when your ballot is received. And Social Security notifies, I say voter registration, it might be through the state, but we are notified when someone dies, so they are removed from the rolls. And mail-in ballot security, here's where the confusion lies. People get applications for mail-in ballots in the mail. Third parties, we do one mailing like that. Third parties are the ones who keep sending them, and it's confusing to people. They think it's a ballot. No, it's an application for a ballot. The county mails one ballot after they receive an application. If you send 2 or 3 or 10, you're only going to get one. Voter registration adds the date and time stamp when it comes into our office, so we know exactly the date and time that it has arrived. Signatures are required on the envelope. The barcode is scanned. Our staff are trained, and we like to have experience, but we always bring new people in so we can keep that full of workers. We have the state support. As I mentioned earlier, it's printed on special paper. And when you look at the election board, we have both Republicans and Democrats on that board. That's part of the law. Voter ballots are locked in a safe at night. If you've never seen it, maybe Sean will give you a tour. But it is a walk-in safe. It is huge. It's almost as big as this room. So they are locked up at night. Computers use both passwords and encryption. And deputies, I've confirmed, still monitor the cameras or can play them back down in their office. And we have a camera mounted right on the drop box, so you can see who's dropping what into the box. The deputies are close, but they're not intimidating. You cannot have, other than a constable, anybody in uniform in the polling place, because that's intimidation. And we also have, by law, started doing risk limiting audits. Those risk limiting audits are 2% up to 2,000 and require a hand count, another misspelling I just caught, check on the machine count. So this is verifying that our counters, our machines that are counting are accurate, and all kinds of things. So I wanted to review this to emphasize that our elections are fair and impartial, and will be as long as I'm around, and these guys, we're here for another couple of years, 3 years or so after this one. So this presidential election is so important, and we do want to give the message of how fair our elections are and how safe they are. And we need you to help carry that message out into the public. We don't want people afraid. And we do have security around, and the city police are just down on Cumberland Street if they need backup. But we have all kinds of things in place. Please, please, please help to spread a positive message. And that's what I wanted to say. I truly believe the drop box should remain in place, get put back in place. And if you want to have someone, you know, standing there beside it and running to the curb if they're a sworn-in deputy for the Election Bureau, you know, that's fine. But to go to all this expense of putting in and rearranging, and it's, I mean, I can't say it's bad totally, but I see flaws and I don't have all my questions answered. So what I would like to do is both things. I know we're in the middle of the I don't know what you want to call it, drive-by mail-in ballot. I know we're in the middle of that, but I would also like to see, and I will make a motion to reinstate the ballot box, because if things go wrong and don't get done, or we have those big windstorms that blows everything over, we have that drop box in place and we're not going to have any interruption in service. I think we need both, is what I'm saying. Thank you for your attention.
So, we have a motion, a second on the table. Is there any other discussion, questions, comments? And this is regarding removing the drop box or codifying the decision we made in January specifically, to remove any doubt that there was any question that we just want to revisit this. So we'll call for the question. All in favor?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Amy, League of Women Voters. I have a point of order question. So we have to ratify the removal. So if you approve the removal and then fail to approve this, Sean's proposal here, that means there's nothing. Is that correct?
That'd be correct. That would be correct.
So can we approve Sean's proposal first before getting rid of the Dropbox? Or do we have to go in this? Because that is, right, if you ratify this and then fail to approve this proposal and fail to second Commissioner Litz's motion to reinstate the Dropbox, there will be nothing. Is that correct?
I would point out that Commissioner Litz could bring up 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now to reinstate the Dropbox. So
But we would leave this meeting today
that
with
motion can be
nothing,
made,
if that
and I think that if need be, the Dropbox could be reinstalled in probably 24 hours.
Okay.
Oh, correct. And yeah, at
But-
any point in the future, if there's a proper second and a vote on that.
But that could happen today, is what I'm saying, because of the order of these votes. Is that correct?
You just have to take one step at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second, and any additional comments, questions? If not, all in favor of that removal, please say aye.
When they change the order.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it, 2-1, and for now that Dropbox will be removed. Next item, again, revisiting Mr. Drasher's presentation about creating a satellite location on the grounds of the municipal building to receive ballots, and basically an extension of their office. That I'd like to entertain a motion that we continue to pursue this and work out all the details, and that Mr. Drasher and Jamie come back at a future meeting to finalize those details.
So there will be another vote?
That would be associated, but this is to proceed with the planning and finalization of
But not
the
the
details
actual-
associated with that staffing and the final structure, how it would be, cost, everything else.
Well, then I will make the motion to explore the type of proposal that Sean gave today to be brought back for a vote at a future meeting.
Do we have a second? I'd like to make an amendment that you used the word explore, but I'm for this idea. I want to move it forward, and time is of the essence. So I would like to make a motion to amend that motion that we move forward with the planning to be able to implement this in time, so that it's up and running for the spring primary.
Will we have a second vote when everything is brought back to us?
Well, we can't finalize it. Yes,
Okay.
that would be my intent to finalize it at a future meeting.
Okay.
Yes, with
I'm
all the
trusting you.
details that have not been ironed out.
I'm trusting you.
We're gonna have to pull some numbers for a variety of things here.
So
I want to know the cost too. I want estimates on the cost. That'll be a big, a big thing, because it's
Sure.
just as easy to put that drop box back.
I made an amendment to.
And I
is there a second
accept
for
that.
Okay, so you have the motion clear. So.
No,
No, I
here's
was
Bud.
wondering that too.
So that the motion would be to authorize Sean and Jamie to move forward with the planning of staffing, finding the appropriate facility to place outside, and all associated costs to present in a future meeting for final adoption, but with the goal of having it established and up and running for primary election in 2024. Is that clear? Is that agreeable? Okay, is there any questions, comments?
I have a comment. I would like a harder date, not just before the election. I think we need to have something to have everyone comfortable that we are going to get this done post haste, and I don't think that motion does it. I was ready to go to vote today on something that we could lock in on that would assure people that we are, but the motion's out there. I'm just going to tell you that I think that by the election day is kind of a long time, 2 months off. So.
Sean, Jamie, would it be unreasonable to say for our first commissioner meeting in March the 7th?
I was going to suggest that by March 7th, have the costs, a recommendation for the dates, and cost of staff, cost of implementation, and date of implementation.
Amendment to have it in place, to have that proposal by March 7th.
And that will then need to be, unless it is already advertised, that will also then need to be advertised as a separate meeting of the Board of Elections.
Should we leave the meeting then?
So,
What's the date, Jamie, that you're?
March 7th.
That's a meeting date that we will vote on?
Commissioner meeting date.
Okay.
It's the next meeting.
I would like to add another, unless you want to scrap this whole thing and start over, but I'll
Fine.
amend the motion to allow, it has to be a solid March 7th date that we vote on it at a public meeting, at a separate Board of Elections meeting.
I accept that amendment.
Okay. So, don't you have that now? Any additional comments, questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we will move forward. Sean, Jamie, thank you very much, and let us know.
All right.
So we can help.
Board of Elections still has more on their plate.
Yeah, there's still more.
Okay. Covered the extension, presentation of fair elections. Commissioner Litz, do you have anything additional to add?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to reinstate the drop box at the date that the mail-in ballots go out. In addition to, if it ends up being that, the drive-by, because too much with the weather right now has been unstable, and we don't have enough information to stop it right now. I think we have to reinstate that drop box, and as an alternative, if and when the drive-by gets absolutely worked out, we would then have the option to discuss about moving that to a location away from the municipal building where there is a large concentration of voters. Many counties have more than one location.
What's the motion?
The motion is to reinstate the drop box.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. General status update.
All right, I have a number of things to update you on as the Board of Elections. Our petition period has ended. We had approximately 184 petitions come in. They are still being officially processed. They're cataloged but not processed, so we need to go through those yet. Preventative maintenance on our mail sorting machine is underway right now down the hall. They're working on that. Hopefully we got all the parts in today. UPS was on time. Our temporary office staff has been expanded. We're fully staffing all of our available workstations around the clock right now. Let's see what else. And next week will be our preventive maintenance on the rest of our election equipment. So that's finally out of the way. This is in addition to LNA. This is another security layer on top of that. So we'll be doing basically a double LNA this year. And next Wednesday, please note, is at your workshop, we'll be meeting for casting of lots. Actually, I don't know if it's in your workshop. It's at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah,
on
we'll
Wednesday?
be casting of lots for the petitions.
Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And that has been advertised.
Did you mention
that has been advertised?
Did you mention what LNA is?
LNA is logic and accuracy testing for our equipment. It is extensive, and it takes a week. We put every piece of equipment through an extensive security check using real ballots. And it's very time consuming. Yeah. That's cool. So we're having another layer of maintenance on top of that as well to make sure all the equipment is working flawlessly. So no chances.
Okay.
So the next item, if I may, we've been approached by Lebanon High School. Our liaison there is Keith Rowland. He's fantastic. They are looking at developing more tools for their graduates to leave high school with in terms of certifications. And I think it's a fantastic idea. He was explaining the program to me. One that they would like to partner with us is civic training for their high school seniors. And that civic training would come with some sort of official county certificate that they could use along with their resume when they graduate as graduating seniors. I think this is an amazing idea. We already use them, or their students, a lot in our polling places, and we are going to be expanding that by multiples in this next election. Keith's goal is to have a Lebanon County high school student or two at all of the local precincts, all the wards.
I think that's a great idea.
I think it's great, and they're wonderful. Their students are wonderful to work with. So I would like to propose that we develop together some sort of certification process for their students so that when they graduate, they could put it on their resume if they choose to, and maybe even have a certificate to go with it. This would involve training for the students, a training curriculum that we'd have to develop. Would it happen in time for the primary? I don't know. We have a lot to fit in before the primary, but it is something we could get done this year. That's our proposal. We'd like to develop the curriculum, and we probably need your assistance. They're very enthusiastic about
Are
being
you
here.
looking for a motion?
If I'm not sure if we need a motion, but that is something we're going to go
Why
for.
don't we entertain that?
Okay, I will make a motion to engage the certificate program with Lebanon High School and any other high school that might be interested.
Yeah, we would very much like to push it out to the other schools.
Second the motion.
Motion second. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Please proceed, Sean.
That's all I have for you today.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
Move to adjourn.
Could you clearly state so everybody can hear the motion that was actually passed in regard to the satellite location?
The motion that was passed was to move this concept forward, to come back here at our March 7th scheduled meeting with the final cost associated with it, how the structure will look, and how we'll staff it, and any other details that need to be worked out. A couple just fine tuning we need to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Before I do entertain that motion, this may be the first record I set in my life, probably overseeing the longest Board of Election meeting in Lebanon County history. I'm new to this job, but again, I value the input of everybody that came here. Everybody has a point of view, and there are people on both sides of this. We appreciate your passion for accurate and fair elections, and that's what we're after here. And we hope this new process makes a process that we had even better and more secure. So again, thank you again for your input. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to say thank you as well, and then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I would join in thanks for everyone's input.
We'll adjourn.